I guess this is where I start. The moment you cross the line between having fun and feeding something hungry. Funny how you don't realize the difference until something has already taken you. My name is Jason McGuigan. People think I just liked gambling. No, gambling liked me. It curled around my brain like a whisper in the dark, the kind you answer before you're even aware you heard it. They always talk about red flags, but nobody ever knows which moment is the first red flag until it's too late. For me, it probably started way earlier than anyone thinks. I was just a kid, 13, when things changed. Dad got custody, and then he bought the computer. He thought he was giving me a tool to learn, but what I found was scoreboards, odds, final results, and glowing pixels at 1:30 in the morning. I waited for him to go to bed. Once the house went quiet, I wasn't asleep at all. I was gambling in secret, feeding the darkness I couldn't explain yet. As a kid, rolling dice, watching scores flicker on a growing screen while everyone slept. That wasn't a game. That was the first time something in me was harvested. At first, it was just harmless. My uncle took my bets. He was a bookie in Madison. Friendly wagers, little hits of adrenaline, but there's no such thing as little when it comes to addiction. By high school, I was falling asleep in class. Then it escalated. Because I became unable to pay, local bookies cut me off. Every single one. So, I moved my bets offshore. I always found someone who would take the bet. The game always continued. People around me started to notice. Friends called Dad. Family whispered. But the one conversation that sealed my fate, the one I wish I could undo, was from Dad's aunt. She thought she was helping me. 10,000 became 50,000. Then 90,000. Eventually, over the years, she handed me $250,000, and every dollar of it was gasoline on a fire no one knew how to put out. You want to know where the tragedy really began? It wasn't the night in Verona. It began in the glow of a monitor, while the rest of the world slept, when I was teaching myself to lose everything. By the time I met Mark Wu, this quiet college kid who seemed harmless, the thing inside me was already in control. We didn't meet because of chance. We met because something hungry wanted more. That something led me to meet Wu at a blackjack table. 6 weeks, that's all it took. 6 weeks and I watched him burn through $72,000 and still ask for more. Every loss made him twitch. Every almost win made him sweat. The air around him felt charged, like static before a storm. His parents were alarmed. They were already making plans to fly from Taiwan to drag him home before the games took him under completely. You need to understand something. When you're drowning, hope is just another anchor. Then, Wu wanted to make one final bet. Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. His pick won, $17,000 on the table. Except, I pocketed the money and never placed the bet. He looked at me like I had robbed him, like I'd stolen a piece of his soul, and in that moment, something changed in his eyes. I didn't recognize him anymore. I don't know what scared me more, the look in his face or the way it felt like something was standing behind him. Do you know what it feels like to know a moment is coming, to feel it before it arrives, but your body just keeps walking towards it anyway? There's this ringing, like a low tone, like a bell far away underwater, and you just know the final door is opening. And then, June 26th, 2003. That was the last night I remember. Detectives later realized I bought the 9mm Glock that ended my life. Wu used my own weapon against me. That's the kind of irony only the devil could enjoy. I don't remember the little pieces of metal that decided who stayed and who didn't. I don't remember the floor rising up to meet my face. I remember the silence, then a coldness that felt like someone had folded the air inside my chest. I remember Wu's face, And I remember thinking, this wasn't his idea. Everyone thinks Wu pulled the trigger, and maybe he did. But there was something older in the room with us. Something that doesn't care about guilt or innocence, only escalation. Only what it could take next. It didn't start with sirens. It started with her, my great aunt, tapping at the door, then knocking harder, then looking through the glass because nobody was answering. I remember her eyes before anything else. Wide, confused, then terror when she finally saw what she wasn't supposed to see. Me, still, silent, the room around me, heavy with the kind of mess that doesn't come from life, only the end of it. And I wasn't alone in there. Daniel was there too, 25. Dustin too, 17, practically still a kid. 3 of us. 3 bodies. 3 unfinished stories, frozen in a house that suddenly felt too small for how much horror it had to hold. When you die, you see things differently. You don't see events, you see threads. While Wu tried to flee the country, I watched from somewhere no living man gets to stand. He got to LaGuardia Airport, ticket in hand. If he stepped onto that plane, he was gone forever. Taiwan wouldn't extradite. But the authorities caught him in time. They brought him back to Wisconsin, not locked up yet, but held in a hotel room under constant watch. The investigators were able to hold Wu under a thin legal reason that I didn't quite understand, but my family appreciated. And the evidence? Well, evidence has a way of floating to the surface like bodies in cold water. A sandal splattered with Dustin Wilson's DNA. A broken Glock case in a dumpster with Wu's fingerprints. A witness who saw us arguing hours before the crimes were committed. And suddenly, the picture was clear. Everyone could see the same thread I had lived and died in. Wu was charged. Bail, $30 million, a record for Wisconsin. A number so large because everyone knew. If they didn't lock him down, he would vanish into another country, and my voice would never be heard at all. There's something you should know. Wu told them, I set up his offshore betting account, gave him tips, and yes, he would have won $17,000 on one of them. But he bragged. Too loudly. Too publicly. I couldn't have people knowing I never placed that bet. So I did pull the Glock once, told him to shut up. What happened after will always be a black hole of motive. Fear, revenge, panic. We never got an answer because Wu never stood trial. The morning his trial was set to begin, they found him hanging from a sprinkler head in his cell. And 2 years later, one more life broke. Dustin Wilson's brother, David, crushed by grief, ended his life too. 5 dead, including Wu. No winners. All because we thought luck would be a ladder upward. Instead, it was a spiral downward. And once we were falling, neither one of us stopped. And now I'm stuck here, trapped in the moment right before everything ends, watching you listen to my story. Because the scariest thing, I can still feel that same static around you, that same whisper. And you're hearing this because whatever took us is looking for someone new. This was a true crime story where greed met despair, and the cost was everything. If you want to explore more stories like this one, stay with us. Watch the next video, and remember, every story has 2 sides, but not everyone gets to tell theirs.